Get the cream, precious metals or the crypto things. Your bars are light like the one that's on a Smith machine. But my Maxwell and I ain't speaking about the pretty.
Welcome to 3Count Commentaries. This is another video on Sasha Banks and Naomi, but this is a different kind of video. There have been fans now who want Sasha Banks and Naomi to challenge WWE in court. So this is going to be a video about this claim of that they should contact someone to argue about the independent contractor status of WWE. Now, this is a pretty long piece, and this one, I'm going to bring a lot of information to this, because if you've been following this channel for a long time, you've heard me talk about most of these things individually, but now we're going to talk about them all at one time, so that people who stumble across this video will actually get a chance to hear the arguments all at one time, rather than trying to piece together my thoughts on the subject and how this subject has panned out before without having to listen to multiple videos. Okay? So I'm not going to use this person's name, but this was posted during the hashtag I stand with Sasha and Naomi. The quote goes thusly: "The one thing I have not seen discussed is the fact that WWE is likely concerned that Sasha and Naomi are going to do the one thing that the company is terrified of: take them to court on the validity of their contracts, and every contract in WWE, in relation to independent contractor status versus employee. It doesn't matter whether they sign these contracts if they are invalid. WWE has coasted on the fact that there have not been sufficient competition in the industry, forcing wrestlers to sign contracts that wouldn't hold water in any industry. They violate laws in Connecticut and most other laws regarding the definition of what an independent contractor is." Now, there is more to this. There is more to this. And they supplement this by saying these performers have no control over what they wear, when they travel, how they travel, whether they can take independent bookings outside of WWE, etc. That is the definition of employee. Not to mention its practice of releasing people under contract, yet the same people cannot leave the contract before it's terminated, is open to question legally. Now, here's the issue to this young lady who posted this. WWE has been sued numerous times over the independent contractor status. In one instance, and this is a very interesting instance because this is actually politically motivated. When Linda McMahon ran for office in 2010 in Connecticut, her Democratic opponent launched that very same attack at her. This is from the New Haven Register. It says, "A state audit of World Wrestling Entertainment that was an issue in the hotly contested 2010 United States Senate race ultimately found the professional wrestling company owes about $7,000 in underpaid unemployment compensation, according to a WWE attorney. The confidential audit, which the state labor department would not confirm or deny, came to light during the Senate race when former WWE CEO Linda McMahon ran as a Republican against then Democratic Attorney General Richard Blumenthal for the seat held by former U.S. Senator Christopher J. Dodd. McMahon's campaign said it believed that investigation was politically motivated. WWE said it began in summer 2009 when McMahon began considering her candidacy. Blumenthal denied that his office was involved. In a letter to the Department of Labor's Field Audit Unit dated Monday and obtained Wednesday, the Associated Press, the lawyer, said Stanford-based WWE does not agree with the findings reached by the agency, but said that the company has decided reluctantly to pay the assessment for 2008 and 2009 to avoid further expenses. WWE was not found guilty of this. In fact, we're going to get into what the actual findings were. But they ended up having to pay $7,000, which is, this is something that's very interesting. Neil deGrasse Tyson, he says that, there's a certain amount of money that you wouldn't stop. You wouldn't concern yourself with. It's not worth your time. And he says that you can tell how much money people have by how much they would stop to pick it up. If you saw a quarter in the street, would you stop and pick it up? And he says that he has enough money that he would not stop and pick up a quarter. He says if you saw a $1 bill, would you stop and pick it up? He says he has enough money where he doesn't have to pick up a $1 bill. And then he just keeps going up. And if you saw $20, $50, $100, would you stop and pick it up? WWE is worth hundreds of millions of dollars in 2011. They're arguing over $7,000. Okay, that should tell you how how terrible this company really is. That they really are arguing with this guy over $7,000. Now, continuing. Blumenthal, who won the Senate race, he won, by the way, often refers to the probe during the campaign. He claimed it was an example of, quote, McMahon putting profits ahead of people at every turn. At the time, the audit was described as an investigation into whether WWE was misclassifying its talent, namely wrestlers, as independent contractors to avoid paying various benefits. The WWE's letter refers only to an audit concerning underpaid unemployment compensation. According to the letter, the audit also determined that WWE's payroll company overpaid on taxable payroll wages in both 2008 and 2009, creating a credit. WWE deferred with the state's attorney for 5 employees to be considered talent, when most appeared only sporadically. It says WWE also maintains that 23 people the state believes should be considered employees for purposes of unemployment compensation taxes were really temporary workers who no longer work for the company. 5 of them hold part-time jobs as blurrers, people hired to edit images in the WWE's film archives to delete the old WWF logo. That is it. No, that is not it. Okay, so it says here's another thing. Senator Blumenthal believes that misclassification of workers is a serious and pervasive offense that harms workers, taxpayers, and honest businesses, and that addressing the problem must go beyond focusing on any one business or industry to ensure employees receive proper wages and benefits. Businesses, especially our small businesses, deserve a fair chance to compete. All right, so that's pretty much the beginning and the end of it. WWE was not found to have been misclassifying workers, which means the state of Connecticut looked into this 10 years ago and found no problems. They found that, a couple of contractors here and there, WWE was not really appropriately paying for their unemployment and that they should have been classified as employees, but none of the wrestlers. No wrestlers. Unless the state of Connecticut have changed the laws, which is entirely possible because it's been 10 years. And WWE's contracts have changed, which is not likely. They've been doing this thing for at least 20 years. This entire idea that they're in violation of Connecticut law continues among people who do no research. They simply don't do any research. Right, so we got to go back to 2009 because this wasn't the only time. There was another high-profile lawsuit against WWE. It says 3 men, Scott Levy, Christopher Kluxaritis, and Michael Sanders. This is Raven, Chris Kanyon, and Mike Sanders of WCW. They filed a lawsuit claiming that they were misclassified as independent contractors by WWE. This was thrown out. This was, again, 10 years ago. So it says that, quote, the wrestlers contend that they could still make a claim under the federal law governing benefit plans. But the court said that even that claim would fail. This is the court. In the proposed amended complaint, plaintiffs assert that, quote, they are participants in WWE's ERISA plans and are entitled to the full benefit of such plans. However, this claim relies on the reiteration of plaintiffs' argument espoused in the first complaint. Plaintiffs assert that they were unaware of defendants' intention to treat them as independent contractors and that an employer-employee relationship developed between themselves and the defendants. However, the court has already rejected the plaintiff's argument that their relationship with defendants evolved to employer-employee. The booking contracts that outline the terms and conditions of the relationship between WWE and each wrestler specifically stipulate that the plaintiffs are independent contractors. Furthermore, plaintiffs cite no authority to support their employer-employee claim and did not show that the booking contracts were invalid. Thus, an amendment to assert an ERISA claim upon an employer-employee relationship between plaintiffs and defendants would be futile as it fails to state a cognizable cause of action. It was tossed. So that's 2 different cases that we talked about here around the same time. This was 2009 to 2011. This is when, again, Raven took them to court, and then a Democratic guy running for senator had them audited. Well, he claims he did nothing to do with it, but how it was just fortuitous that WWE was under investigation the moment Linda McMahon decided she wanted to be a politician. How fortuitous! But, again, people do not do any research, and I don't expect them to be quite honest. A lot of these people are educated by dirt sheets, so it is what it is. Now, this is an interesting claim here. The claim that the performers have no control over what they wear, when they travel, and how they travel. Well, as independent contractors, they have to pay for their own travel. So WWE does not control their travel. WWE does not control their travel. Now, they help them quite a bit when it comes to Europe. I think they have a bus that goes to Europe. I think they also have and for Europe and Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure they travel together for those things because it's probably a little bit easier to do. But in the United States, you can travel by plane if you want. WWE can get you a bus, or you can pay for a bus for yourself if that's what you want. They don't control how they travel. They do control over what the characters wear. How the characters are being portrayed, the uniform of the characters. Now, for a while there was a backstage dress attire type of situation. I'm not sure if that's still going on, if the company still has a dress code. I know that during the CM Punk's days, I remember he got in some trouble by refusing to follow the dress code because Mick Foley didn't have to and John Cena didn't have to. So he felt like he shouldn't have had to. I remember that story floating around the dirt sheets. But I'm not sure if that continues into today's world, even though I'm pretty sure that it does. And it says whether they can take independent bookings outside of WWE. Put a pin in this, we'll be coming back to it. Now, this person continues to write their piece. So let's talk about this. It says, Sasha and Naomi could bring the whole house of cards down. Only wrestlers with sufficient clout and money will be able to ride out a lawsuit, and even if they are going to win it. And most wrestlers have chosen not to rock the boat. It's notable that this could change the entire industry. To a degree, AEW does treat its wrestlers as independent contractors because they can earn a living taking independent bookings and owning their own Twitch accounts, etc. That is also giving wrestlers bargaining power when they choose whether to leave WWE. I love to see wrestling channels discuss this issue from this perspective. It is really worthwhile because we are at a critical point where even Freddie Prince Jr. is in the process of creating his own wrestling promotion where he will treat his wrestlers as employees who can be members of the Screen Actors Guild as performers, a union that provides the very benefits that WWE wrestlers do not have and cannot have as long as the company considers them independent contractors. Put a pin in that Freddie Prince Jr. thing because we're going to come back to that too. Now, let's double back. A lot of wrestlers have chosen not to rock the boat because most people are understanding that wrestlers are independent contractors and therefore they will be responsible for paying their own taxes, getting their own health insurance, traveling to and from uniforms, etc., etc. Now, WWE does, I think they might reimburse for some of these things. I know most companies, if they require you to drive a lot, using your own car or something else, if they require you to, take up some type of expense, you usually get reimbursed for it. Now, I've worked in places that were much smaller than WWE. And those places that will require you to drive your own job, drive to your own areas or whatever, like if you're a social worker or something like that, sometimes those places will reimburse you gas money or something like that. So is it possible that WWE asks the performers to be reimbursed? That, hey, spend whatever you have to get from San Antonio to Las Vegas and then send it to us and we'll give it back, which is entirely possible. I don't know. But I know that sometimes companies do consider people employees or independent contractors, and they will pay for gear, they will pay for tools and different things like that. For instance, sometimes if you hire a roofer or something like that, you will have to provide the shingles, or you will have to pay them more to go and get the shingles. Same thing for if you hire a plumber or something like that. So, yes, they're supposed to come with their own tools, but sometimes they don't. So you have to, that's a decision between you and the contractor. Now, that's a completely different thing. Now, here's the issue. It says, to a degree, AEW does treat its wrestlers as independent contractors because they can earn a living taking independent bookings and owning their own Twitch accounts, etc. Now, part of this is true. There are times when AEW treats their performers like employees. For instance, when they decide to pull talent from other places. For instance, last year, 2021, AEW pulled talent from a show because Joey Ryan was going to appear at the show. It says, it was a bar wrestling show, which is owned by Joey Ryan. It says, this led AEW CEO and President Tony Khan to remove talent from the event if Joey Ryan was to be involved, but would still donate to the charity. Khan's offer then came to the question whether Khan was asking if the charity was even real. In other words, since Joey Ryan, who had been canceled for being a pervert, he decided to run a wrestling show. AEW was going to let their talent work that show. Tony Khan heard about this and decided to step in and pull his talent. How can he do that if they're independent contractors? Ask yourself that question. How is he able to pull talent who can work whatever show they want? Maybe they like Joey Ryan. If you believed that AEW does not have any control over their talent, you're wrong. They have pulled talent from shows before. They have blocked people from going to shows before. They also pulled talent in April of 2022, but this one was actually something that makes sense and actually something that most people would understand. It says AEW will remove AEW dark tapings. So a lot of talent that was going to be working in PWG, they got pulled from PWG to work AEW Dark. So it says a scheduling conflict has led to changes for upcoming independent shows. And then PWG put out, unfortunately, JD Drake, Top Flight, and Wheeler Yuta will not be able to wrestle at Delivering the Goods on May the 1st. There will be some changes to the card. And it says Black Label Pro, they pulled Lee Moriarty, Sky Blue, and Jake Something will not be appearing. And Jake Something wasn't even signed to the company. It was just a dark taping. It was an AEW dark tape, and AEW pulled their talent. So, did AEW talent get to make a choice that they wanted to work PWG or AEW Dark? We don't know. Nobody ever asked either. It just says, well, AEW, they do the right thing. Big thumbs up for them, except for when they pull their talent because, Tony Khan feels like it. So, that's a very interesting thing. In a situation where people can do whatever they want, how can he pull talent under any circumstances? You can't control, the bricklayer, who else he works for. If your bricklayer wants to lay brick for a rapist down the street, you can't do anything about that. Now, you can fire the bricklayer if you just decide you don't want him anymore. Sure. But you can't prevent him from laying brick for somebody down the street. You can't do that. Now, WWE might be able to get away with stuff like this because they keep their performers so busy. They run these house shows, right? So because they run house shows several times a week, it might be a scheduling conflict. Most wrestling shows are going to be on the weekend, not through the week. But WWE might hold house shows throughout the week. And they definitely have house shows on the weekend. So if you're running a Ring of Honor style show or something like that, and it's going to be on a Friday night, there may be most WWE wrestlers may be working on Friday, or that might be their day off and they have to be somewhere else on Saturday or something like that. So that's kind of how they get around that whole thing. They just keep the performers busy, and the performers don't feel like they need to take up any extra dates. I mean, why would they? They're constantly doing something anyway. Either they're on house shows, or they're doing media, or they're doing literally anything else they get paid to do. So that's how they get around that. All right, so now let's talk about the Freddie Prince Jr. thing, because this brings me to my favorite subject, which is, of course, unions, because I like to beat up on unions, and everybody knows that. So let's go to post-wrestling. It says that Freddie Prince Jr. wants to run a wrestling promotion. It says, the idea is to find a location in Los Angeles that the group can call its full-time home, where they can shoot episodes and produce a 2-hour show, which Freddie Prince Jr. would own. He is not in the process of hiring any wrestlers yet. Prince Jr. said would serve as a writer and oversee the project, but would hire a booker, understanding that aspect is not his strength. His mission statement is for the company to have, quote, reality-based storylines to provide equal time allotted to male and female talent, and to allow all his talent to become members of the Screen Actors Guild. Prince Jr. shared his opinion that WWE will eventually be sold and believes that the first move that the talent should make when that happens is to unionize, and feels it will never happen while Vince McMahon is running the company. Now, I've done several videos on the Screen Actors Guild. I am tired of people bringing up the Screen Actors Guild. Here's the thing about the Screen Actors Guild. They don't own anything. They don't even provide any talent. You have to come to them, and if you meet their criteria, should we go through the criteria for a Screen Actors Guild? No, let's not do that. Let's instead just say that they have a criteria. You have to have a certain amount of screen time, and you have to sign an agreement. You have to provide a certain amount of working hours or whatever. And it's separate from most of the movie houses. It's an independent organization. It is a trade union. That being said, they have exclusive contracts with all the major picture studios. So in order for the Screen Actors Guild or members of wrestlers to become members of the Screen Actors Guild, WWE would have to make some type of deal with the Screen Actors Guild. Why should they have to do that? They shouldn't have to do that. If the Screen Actors Guild wants to take wrestlers, they could do so tomorrow if they wanted to. They could just go in there and say, we will allow pro wrestlers of any stripe to sign up for the Screen Actors Guild. And guess what? Wrestlers can come do it. But what would happen then is that the Screen Actors Guild would not have any exclusivity over who the WWE could hire. So that would tell you right there what the problem would be. The problem isn't that everybody loves Screen Actors Guild and it's so great, therefore everybody joins it. It's typical union stuff. We have an exclusive contract with this studio. You cannot work in this studio without us getting a cut of it. It's mafia tactics. That's what unions do. If Freddie Prince Jr. wants to do that, that's his business. Okay, that's his business. But if Screen Actors Guild wanted to accept wrestlers, they could do so tomorrow. There's nothing that says, because they're independent contractors, so they can do whatever they want. Wrestlers can join SAG, and they have. Roddy Piper joined SAG, Hulk Hogan joined SAG, Kevin Nash joined SAG, Jesse the Body Ventura joined SAG, and they still were working for WWE as independent contractors. Funny how that works, because that SAG thing does not get in the way of what WWE is doing. They have no relationship. So but Batista was a member of SAG when he wrestled at WrestleMania, 35, his last match? He was a member of SAG. The Rock had done movies before and after that. He was a member of SAG. The difference is WWE does not have any relationship with SAG. SAG can take in any wrestlers they wanted to if they wanted to. But they wouldn't have any leverage because they don't have any power through WWE. The power from the union comes in the exclusivity contract, not in the benefits. That's not where it comes in. It comes in on their ability to force you to join. Without that threat of force that they can block you from work, then they have no real authority. It's just an organization that you can sign up with your buddies and get benefits in exchange for money or something like that. Now, Rick Bassman was if the Screen Actors Guild was more like this. Rick Bassman, several years ago, I think I did this, Ultimate Pro Wrestling. He had a talent agency where he would go out and he would find people and he would train them. And if you got a WWE contract, you had to kick money back to him. He did more for those people than SAG does, because SAG doesn't train anybody, right? They just block you from being able to go to work. Now, there is some trade unions that actually do provide training. Plumbers unions, carpenters unions, those kinds of things, those people actually do provide some level of training and operate as a talent agency. So you may come in, say, I want to be a carpenter. You'll pay whatever training costs. You'll go to the classes, get a license, and then they'll maybe help you get a job. Under those circumstances, I actually don't mind the union at that point, because they're actually providing you with something, which is an opportunity, education, and they're going to actually help you find work. In most other unions, you get the job on your own. And then the union comes in and says, well, you owe us some money because, well, this is our shop. Like an auto plant or something like that. Most people can get that job on their own. They don't need a union to get that job. They only need a union to keep that job. Okay? You just show up, you sign a piece of paper, an application, you talk to them, they talk to you. If they want to hire you, they will. The union ain't got shit to do with that. They come in later and say, hey, you guys should just join us, or you guys have to join us. You don't really have much of a choice. You know? And like, you had nothing to do with this. You're not providing any training. You didn't find me and then connect me with this job. What did you do? Now, Rick Bassman, when he had this talent agency and he went out and found guys like John Cena and he trained them and then sent him to WWE, and then when he was signed, then it became a problem. Like somebody like a Jim Cornette would then hear about Rick Bassman and say that he's taking advantage of you. It's like, well, Rick Bassman found you. Rick Bassman trained you, and through Rick Bassman's connections, you got a job in WWE. If all he wants is a little bit of taste after that, that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, he did the work. He did the hard work. Right? He not only, did the right thing and looking for the talent, and then connected the talent with a job and gave the talent skills. He shouldn't be compensated for that. Bullshit. He should be compensated for that. All right. If a union does something like that, I am okay with them. All right. Now, of course, we can negotiate how much a guy should have to kick back to a talent agency or something like that. But if SAG worked like that, I would be all in favor of SAG, but that's not how SAG works. SAG works like most unions, which is you get the job on your own and then they come in afterwards and say, hey, you want benefits? You got to go through us. You want this job? You got to go through us. And that's not fair. If Freddie Prince Jr. wants to do that on his to his wrestling company, he can do whatever he wants. It also says that he wants to run for 3 years and not make any money. Good luck with that. If you find a financier that's willing to lose, 3 years of money on a wrestling show, go for it. It also sounds more like a TV show than anything. It doesn't sound like a wrestling promotion. It's not like going to be a traveling wrestling promotion. It's going to be a stationary wrestling show, much like Lucha Underground or Wrestling Society X or something like that. Again, he's welcome to try it, but that sounds very expensive. If the wrestlers are part of unions, then you know damn well that the cameramen, the writing team, all of them are going to join the union. At that point, you're going to be in the same situation as a sitcom. It's going to be very expensive. So if that's what he wants to do and he thinks he can make it work, go for it. But, the reason why WWE and AEW and all of them don't really do that is because it's very expensive. And he's talking about centering in California. Yeah, you might as well just throw that money. You might as well burn that money on a pyre somewhere. But I thought this was a very interesting thing. Sure, Naomi and Sasha Banks can file lawsuits, It's like, for what? This could all be hashed out through conversation anyway. It's not that big of a deal. I think most people are making it a bigger deal than it should be. All right. What did you guys think about all this stuff? Let me know in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to put the videos on SAG in the description. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.